The Krillian war beast stood 30 meters tall, its obsidian carapace scarred by plasma burns and kinetic rounds. Steam rose from its wounds as yellow ichor dripped onto the shattered concrete of what had once been New Geneva. Commander Sarah Chen crouched behind the twisted remains of a hover transport, her pulse rifle's energy core glowing amber, nearly depleted. "All units, fall back to checkpoint 7, crackled through her comm. "We're being overrun." The beast let out another roar, a sound that vibrated through her bones and made her teeth ache. It was the same terrifying bellow that had announced the Krillian invasion 3 years ago, when their massive bioships had descended from the void like angry gods. The same roar that had accompanied the fall of Earth's major cities, the evacuation of Luna Base, and the retreat from the outer colonies. But Chen didn't move. She thought of her daughter Emma, evacuated to the refugee ships now hiding in the asteroid belt. She thought of her husband Marcus, whose fighter had been vaporized over the ruins of Beijing. She thought of the billions of humans scattered across the galaxy, running from an enemy that saw them as nothing more than an infestation, to be cleansed. The Krillians had superior technology, superior numbers, and superior biology. Their war beasts were living weapons, bred for millennia to be perfect killing machines. Their fleet could crack planets. Their soldiers could survive in vacuum and regenerate from wounds that would kill any human instantly. What the Krillians didn't understand was humanity's greatest weapon, the refusal to quit when logic demanded surrender. Chen activated her comm one final time. "This is Commander Chen to all human forces. I'm activating the Prometheus protocol." Silence filled the channel. Then, one by one, voices responded. "Captain Torres, 3rd Marine Division. Prometheus protocol confirmed. Lieutenant Park, Engineering Corps. Prometheus protocol confirmed. Sergeant Williams, Colonial Defense. Prometheus protocol confirmed." Across the battlefield, scattered human forces stopped retreating. They turned to face the advancing Krillian horde, knowing they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. The Prometheus protocol wasn't a weapon or a tactic. It was a promise. A promise that humanity would make its last stand here, in the cradle of civilization, and that the cost of victory would be so high that even the Krillians would remember. The war beast charged toward Chen's position, its massive claws gouging trenches in the street. She stood up, aimed her rifle at its glowing neural cluster, and fired her last shot. The plasma bolt struck true, but the beast barely flinched. It raised one massive claw to crush her. Then the sky lit up. Dr. Amanda Singh had spent 18 months in the deep labs beneath Geneva, working on humanity's most desperate gambit. While the military fought a holding action, she and her team had been reverse engineering Krillian biotechnology, looking for weaknesses. What they found was both terrible and beautiful. The Krillians were a hive-mind species, connected by quantum-entangled neural parasites. Each individual was simultaneously separate and part of the whole. It made them incredibly coordinated, but it also made them vulnerable in a way they couldn't comprehend. Humans were different. Each human mind was isolated, chaotic, unpredictable. Where Krillians saw order, humans saw possibility. Where Krillians calculated optimal outcomes, humans imagined impossible victories. Singh's weapon wasn't designed to kill Krillians. It was designed to do something far worse. It would force them to experience human consciousness. The device detonated in orbit, sending quantum cascades through the Krillian neural network. Across the galaxy, every Krillian suddenly found their perfect hive mind contaminated with something alien and terrifying: individuality. The war beast above Chen stumbled, its roar changing pitch. For the first time in its existence, it was alone in its own mind. The sensation was overwhelming. Imagine suddenly being cut off from every thought and feeling you'd ever shared with another person, isolated in a skull that felt like a prison. But humans lived in that isolation every day. They had learned to build bridges across the void between minds using language, art, love, and sacrifice. The Krillians had no such tools. Across the battlefield, Krillian forces began to collapse. Some stood paralyzed by the horror of solitude. Others went mad, attacking anything nearby in confusion and panic. The perfectly coordinated invasion became chaos in minutes. The war beast looked down at Chen with eyes that held something new: uncertainty. It tried to roar again, but the sound came out broken, almost questioning. Then it simply sat down, overwhelmed by the weight of singular consciousness. Chen lowered her rifle and activated her comm. "All stations, this is command. The enemy has ceased offensive operations. Begin humanitarian aid protocols." Even now, in victory, humanity showed what made them unique. They didn't exterminate the defeated Krillians. Instead, they became teachers, helping their former enemies navigate the strange new world of individual consciousness. Some Krillians adapted, forming the first multi-species democracy in galactic history. Others chose to return to deep space, seeking others of their kind who might understand. Years later, when alien civilizations told stories of the Great War, they spoke of the day humanity taught an entire species what it meant to be alone, and then showed them they didn't have to stay that way. The last roar had echoed across the galaxy, a sound of conquest and certainty. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of possibility, of questions rather than answers, of millions of individual voices learning to sing together rather than as one. In that silence, humanity had found its greatest victory, not the destruction of an enemy but the creation of friends.